So I love me some Neal McDonough, but he always plays the bad guy. And then I really love me some Tommy Flanagan, who always plays the bad guy. So I started to think, like, who in the world is the good guy? And quite frankly, I was definitely surprised that it was Neal. And that made this film just that much more interesting for me. Folks, let's jump into the review of their new film, Boon. What's up, folks, and welcome back to the channel today for another review. And today we're going to be reviewing the film Boon, which is coming in theaters, on demand, and digital April 1st. Now, this cast is very, very much like notable. First of all, going back to Neal McDonough, I'm such a fan of his. I really hope I get a chance to meet him one day. I just love his body of work, and him just consistently embracing the bad guy role over and over and just still reinvents it each and every time. I'm such a fan of his. And then Tommy Flanagan, the OG, the supreme big boss. Now I'm like, all right, so who's the good guy in this? You know what I mean? But I mean, you have to think about this now. You almost have to think like Neal almost is in the same trajectory as Tommy in terms of the type of roles that they take. Like, we are bad guys. That's what we do. We have a lot of fun in doing so. And right now, Tommy's killing it on Power Book 4 Force, and that's just another example of what he can do. But then you have Christina Ochoa, who very interesting role in this as well too. I gotta say, her scenes are so badass, and she's like this boss. Like, she's like, not only is she like a cohort to Tommy's character, but like he respects her in a fashion like, yo, she can run this if she wants. Like, yeah, they're like neck and neck as well. So like, imagine that. Her embracing the presence of a bad guy alongside of Tommy. I mean, at this point now, I'm just still wondering who is the good guy. You know what I mean? But no, seriously, she does a fantastic job as one of the bad guys, one of the villains in this as well too. You have James Matteo, who's just a hothead in this, another bad guy, but a hothead who brings another interesting element to the film. And who else is in this? So I talked about Christina Ochoa, and Tommy, James, and Neal. Yeah, and there's some other folks as well too, but that's the principal cast of the folks in this. But going back to Neal, who is your lead in this, he plays Nick Boon, who is a mercenary who, when you're ready to hang it up, what do people do? They go off the grid and they end up getting a house in the woods, and they just hope to move on with their life. But we know that their past eventually always catches up to them, or somebody comes looking for them. And in one instance of him being off the grid, he is spotted coming into town. He is shot at, and he's hurt. But that's okay, because he is then saved and kind of brought back to life by this young lady, a widow at that, and her son, who basically takes care of him. And then, you know, they're neighbors, so sends him on the way, because he was shot on their land. The son seen it, said, hey, this guy's dying. They brought him back. I mean, they're good people, and they were just trying to help their neighbor. Like, yeah, literally. But with that being said, again, with her having trauma of being a widow, the sins of her husband's past, you know, he was a pastor of this church that she's now the head of. And, you know, not only that, she lost her daughter. So she's just dealing with a lot of trauma herself. Nick is dealing with a lot of trauma, and they're just trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? And at the same time, because of her husband's past, it's also got them kind of intertwined with this whole criminal kingpin empire ran by Tommy Flanagan's character here, Mr. Fitzgerald. By the way, Mr. Fitzgerald alongside of Amelia Fitzgerald, who's played by Christina, are the two that's running it. They're literally neck and neck in this, and they're calling the shots, you know. And Tommy's character, Mr. Fitzgerald's kind of more of the reserved back in the office person, but Amelia's like, if there's a problem, I'm showing up, and it's on site. And so she's so badass, and there's really a really good scene that she has towards the end of this film that I was like, that's impressive, like for real. But yeah, they're trying to build a tunnel under their land, so they're trying to hope that the family doesn't become an issue, because they've already made this agreement with the widow husband. But it's still kind of suspicious. But also at the same time too, Bud and his brother are like the henchmen that are running it or overseeing it, but they can't leave her alone. And they end up being one day where Bud's partner gets drunk and starts to harass her, tries to sleep with her, and the son, in desperation, runs over to Nick's property and says, "Help my mom." And Nick comes over with a shovel and says, "Take that, keep your hands off of her." Dude, literally, because of all the drinking he's been done, he spit up blood and throw up all at once. And I was like, oh wow, I've never seen that before. It was the most goriest, nastiest thing I've ever seen. But since that, now they realize that this guy, well, he actually may be a problem for them. This is not good for business, you know? So now this whole criminal empire, and led by the Fitzgeralds, are saying we got to take this guy out. And the only way that Nick knows how to protect is to kill. Protect himself and mother and son. And that's really the premise of this film. Now, with that being said, it's really a story about retaliation, sort of saying, because while it seems like she's kind of reserved, he's still kind of, and there's also some other elements too, like other people are still looking for Nick because for whatever reason, but like at this point now, he's just trying to just do whatever he can to have some type of peace in his life. So if that means him going after folks, then he will. Protection, whatever it may be, that's what it is. Now, I will say that there's not so much action in this. The action is kind of very spotty, like here, there, sometime is a little bit, which makes this ultimately sort of a slow burn, which I wasn't expecting, but there we are. But when there was action, it was super solid, excuse me. And I gotta say, if anybody's holding a shotgun, prepare for some crazy stuff to happen, because yeah, when the shotgun gets involved, things get turned up. And Tommy is really just the man. His performance is so good. He literally can sit behind the desk, say a few words, and I'm going to get chills. But yeah, he just brings that menacing presence to every character that he has, which is why I want to go back to Christina, because she also compliments him in that same fashion, if not better, which I was like, what? So, hey, the bad guys was winning in this one, for real, for real. They had a sense of presence to them, but that's why, like, Neal is so good, because he's always so calm, cool, collective, no matter if he's good guy or bad guy. And him just kind of offsets all that temperament from them. And it's like, no problem, I do what I got to do. You know what I mean? Now, I will say that the plot isn't very one-dimensional. There are aspects of this film that you have seen in other stuff. But there are, as I supposed to say, like there's some predictable parts, but there definitely are some that are not, that are definitely surprising. And I will say that in this film, and even in this genre, certain type of characters are kind of protected. You would think like, oh, that character is not gonna die, or he's not gonna get shot, or whatever it may be. And like, I gotta say, like, everybody can get it in this. And that was like some of the surprising moments. I was like, oh, didn't see that coming, but here we are. You know what I mean? And I think, you know, going back to the preacher, you know, she's just trying to clean up her husband's mess, and that just becomes problematic for her. She's already dealing with the trauma of losing her husband and her daughter, but now she's also intertwined and potentially being targeted to be killed. It's a lot for her, but hey, she got to protect her young cub, and you never know what a desperate mom may do. And that also was kind of interesting as well too. Now the issue with this film was the very noticeable CGI and FX. Like the gunfire was so noticeable, like it literally, you can just tell it definitely was just off. That's just the nicest way I can put that. And I also will say with the sound effects, were definitely off. So the sound mixing could have been better. Like there's a scene where a car skirts off and hits this hard right, and what type of sound does a car make when it goes around the corner? It skirts, right? This thing sounded like a drag race, where it just was this constant acceleration as if it was only going forward. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna let that slide. But then the next scene, you hear all sorts of different types of sound effects that don't complement what was happening at the current time, as well as with the gunfire. You're just like, yeah, that gun doesn't spit that way. You know what I mean? So like, it throws you off a little bit, and it's super noticeable, and it's definitely worth noting. Like, it's definitely worth to say something about like, yeah, and I will say, like, this film, I like the idea of how like it comes full circle. I thought it was very solid writing, and I also think there's like a very type of duality with this, like things that happen in the beginning, then on the flip side happens at the end. I thought that was pretty smooth writing. I thought I liked it. You know, it's almost like good karma almost to an extent with bad circumstances. But like, yeah, if you really pay attention to the events in the beginning, you start to see those things get kind of flipped at the end. It's pretty, you know, pretty solid. I like that. I like that. Be able to pick up on something like that. And the ending just isn't climactic at all. It literally like was like action, done, goodbye. And it's kind of leaving me like, wait, there's got to be more, right? Like, I could not stress enough. Like, this film really needed a stinger. It needed an additional scene, because it definitely was just kind of just like very abrupt and just was done. I was like, oh yeah, okay, cool. Still got a few more questions, you know. But with that being said, it's a solid popcorn film, easily. Like, solid action. The plot was okay. Good actors, good performances. And just enough for you to have fun, take your eyes off it at times, but still be very much invested into it. And I think that's fine. Again, very, very good popcorn film. And then again, I can't stress enough the cast. It's just Christina, and then Tommy, James, and Neal. All of them, they really come together really good, and they really put on a good performance up and down the board. A good solid action film that didn't have a lot of action, but when it did have the action, it was solid. So, but totally check it out. This is Boon, in theaters, on demand, digital, April 1st. Let me know in the comments once you check it out, your thoughts about the film. And as always, stay tuned for more reviews very soon.
Big old bell.